Welcome to the Money Hour with host Tina Mitchell. Tina Mitchell, MLO 145420, is a licensed loan originator with Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited, NMLS 134871. The views expressed by the speakers on the following program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited, nor are they necessarily endorsed by Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited. Now, in the studio, local mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome to the Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, April 16th show. We are hopping into Easter Sunday. You can also listen to my podcast Facebook premiere, or you can catch the show on my show YouTube channel. In addition, for more information on any of my upcoming events, please go to tinamitchellevents.com. I am your host and local mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, bringing in expert advice and inside knowledge on today's events and how they can affect your money. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast. I'm here to answer any questions, or more importantly, to connect you with the guests that I have on the show today. Please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150, or you can go online to themoneyhour.com. And my lineup for today's show, I will be having a panel conversation with both of my guests, Eunicia Perrett of the Empowered Financial Planner, and Eileen Vierra of Memory Books by Eileen. I'll also have a conversation with Eunicia Fractional Investments, and followed conversation with Eileen, the Power of Memory Books. Also, if you're watching the show on my Facebook premiere or YouTube channel, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce you to my producer over at Hubbard Radio, Benny.
Hi there, Tina, and I hope you have an excellent Easter.
Oh my gosh, you're so funny.
So easy.
He's the one that gave me the idea of hopping into Sunday. And I also would like to introduce and give a shout out to my marketing director, Becky.
Hi, Tina. And I was going to say you're an excellent boss.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. Well, I could not do it without the both of them. There's a lot of work behind the scenes to put this show together and to get it out to you for listening to the show. So thank you, Benny and Becky, for everything that you do. Greatly appreciated. Great information and great guests in studio. For more information on any topics discussed, please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150, or online at themoneyhour.com. And now let's start out today's show, as I do each week, with a little bit of money chat.
Money.
Tina Mitchell here with your money chat. Don't let the media mislead you or bring you down. Watching for the MBA numbers to come out on mortgage applications, I could not believe what came out of the mouths of Diane Olick and Becky Quick as they went through the numbers and tried to terrify potential first-time home buyers by telling them that the rate that first-time buyers will pay for a mortgage is 7%. No joke. This is exactly what they said. Why they would say this and why they are so misformed, I just want to know where they got their information from. It's hard to imagine, but this is what is coming out of the mouths of the media, not this media platform, but other media platforms. I would like to set the record straight. If you're listening and you are a first-time home buyer, there is no special rate that you have to pay. There is no penalty for first-time home buyers. Not disclosing interest rates today because it's depending on a lot of different factors, but average interest rate nationally has been around 5.375, not 7% first-time home buyers. And then they came out teasing all of the listeners for the long part of the morning, as it was a long wait to hear what they were going to say next. And then they said, dramatic downward revision in mortgage origination for 2022 from MBA. Now, the report showed that they only went down from 2.61 trillion to 2.58 trillion, not exactly dramatic downward. There was also an article written by Diana Olick on CNBC citing that according to Redfin, 12% of homes for sale had a price drop last month, insinuating that we are heading towards a bubble. For comparison, this figure was 9% a year ago. Are we starting to see some of the froth come out of the markets? Of course, but even last year when we had one of the hottest housing markets on record, 9% the listings dropped their prices. So we are seeing a slight increase from that level. Also within the article was a mention that listings are up 8% from a year ago, which will lead to more supply and decline in home values. Now, it's important to note that listings decline over the past 4 weeks on an annual basis, and this is typical increase that we see every single year going into the spring and home buying season. In fact, last year inventory rose 10% between March and April, and every year prior, we saw a big increase during that same period of time. Inventory levels are still near record lows. With all of the negative talk in the media, Google shares results. The housing bubble is on the rise, and how many people are putting that into Google search. Of course, rates have moved up, and it will impact on the marginal with affordability to impact on supply with supply and demand. But will that cause a housing bubble, or rather, will we just see a slowing pace of appreciation? I believe that instead of seeing a 20% appreciation like we did in 2021, we will see a more modest to mid to high appreciation levels, which is still extremely meaningful for wealth creation. Let's just say that you see appreciation of 5%. And I think that this is very low and very conservative, but let's go ahead and use that. If you were looking at a home for $500,000, you would need to save $25,000 in 1 year just to keep up. Now, this doesn't even factor in the most likely higher interest rates. If rates only went up to 6%, with a 20% down payment, your monthly payment would increase $250 a month, and this would drop your buying power by $55,000. That means instead of being able to purchase a home for $500,000, if you waited, then that same payment would purchase you a $445,000 home. All right, initial job claims, which measures individuals filing for unemployment benefits for the first time, increased 18,000 to 185,000, coming off the lowest reading since 1968. Continue claims, which are those that continue to receive benefits after an initial claim, decreased 48,000 to 1.475 million. The story here remains the same. Employers are holding onto the workers and firing less, and labor market is extremely tight. On the inflation front, the producer price index, which measures inflation on the wholesale level, rose 1.4% in March, which was the hotter than expectations of 1.1. On a year-over-year basis, the index rose from 10.3% to 11.2%, which is the highest level recorded since they changed their methodology in 2010. The core PPI, which strips out food and energy prices, rose 1% in March, which was double expectations. The year-over-year figures increased from 8.7% to 9.2%. The CRB food price index just closed at the highest, which is important because it makes up approximately 17% of consumer spending in development economies and to 40% in some countries in Africa. Now, additionally, things maybe get worse in Ukraine, has been planting 20 to 30% less crops due to the conflict, which is a huge amount. And this will lead to lesser harvests in the summer, fall, and add to the pricing pressures. Now, if things couldn't get any worse, 23 million chickens had to be put down due to the bird flu, which will likely contribute to higher poultry prices in the coming months. If you have gone out to eat lately, you have seen increases on that the costs are being passed on. Now, the rise in food prices will likely cause a larger disparity between headline and core inflation. On the outlook, on the outlook of the economy, the component dropped 14 points to a negative 49%, which is the lowest level since the beginning of the survey in 1973. This is another indicator that we may be heading towards a recession. This week, the March Cass freight data came out showing that the freight volume slowed from 3.6% year over year in February to 0.6%. Shipments went up almost 3%, but Cass freight says that it's 100 basis point below the normal season pattern. As all of the goods in the U.S. have traveled along some type of freight, the slowdown in the early sign of potential turning point has been another early recession indicator in the past. 1/3 to 1/2 of people in the US that have bank accounts in Bank of America, they recently reported showing that consumer credit card spending is up 33% from 2019, which coincides with other report that showed that unpaid credit card debt was much higher than the last quarter. People are racking up the debt, and we'll see how this is going to play out and impact the economy moving forward. Tina Mitchell here, and that is your Money Chat. Coming up next in the Money Hour, panel conversation with my two guests, Unicia Perrett of Empowered Financial Planner and Eileen Vierra of Memory Books by Eileen, right here on 1150 AM KKNW. You are listening to the Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, April 16th show and Easter weekend. The great gift of Easter is hope. You can also listen to my show podcast, Facebook premiere, or you can catch my show on my show YouTube channel. In addition, for more upcoming events, you can go to tinamitchellevents.com. And I am Tina Mitchell, your host and local mortgage expert. It is a great day to talk about money, and that is what the show is all about: how to make money, save money, so you can have a better quality of life for you and your family. If you are hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast. I'm here to answer any questions or to connect you with the two guests that I have on the show today. Please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150, or online at themoneyhour.com. And now on our show, panel conversation with Unicia Perrett of the Empowered Financial Planner and Eileen Vierra of Memory Books by Eileen, right here on 1150 AM KKNW. Welcome to the show, both of you.
It's a pleasure to be here, Tina.
Yeah, excited to have you. And Eileen, it's great to have you back on the show.
Thank you, Tina. I'm excited to be here today.
Thank you. And a little bit about both of my guests. Unicia is an accomplished financier expert and business owner with over 15 years of experience in the financial service industries. Her passion is to work with individuals that want to optimize their wealth and are looking to take control of their money, minimize tax exposure, and motivated to seek the answers that financial service industries is holding back. She believes that every person should have a holistic, customized financial roadmap that fits their specific goals, needs, and desires for short-term gains and long-term wealth. Unicia is a strong believer that those that seek for more money and wealth creation efforts deserve to know the unfair advantages that many financial advisors hold back from their clients. And we're going to talk about more of that when I get into my individual interview there. So a little bit about Eileen. Eileen is the founder and chief creation officer of our company, Memory Books by Eileen, located in South Bellevue. She is a professional memory book maker who also sells supplies and hosts events for people who want to create their own memory books. She has been preserving her own memories for over 40 years and has been in the industry for 20 years. Eileen has worked in many fields since graduating from Santa Clara University with 2 degrees and a credential from banking and teaching. She and her husband, Tony, have been married for 31 years and have a 21-year-old son, Ben. She has lived in Bellevue, Washington for 18 years and likes traveling, wine tasting, playing board, card games, and attending MLB basketball games. Her key to success, what was that, Eileen?
Baseball.
Oh, baseball. That's what I
Yeah.
meant to say.
Yeah,
You can tell
that's okay.
I'm really into sports.
That's okay.
Her key to success are passion, patience, and perseverance. Very excited to introduce both of you to my listeners and for them to get to know you a little bit better as we get into our panel conversation. So each week I have different questions for the panel, except for question 1, because I think it's a great way, again, for my listeners to get to know you. So first question, if we start out, Let's see, where am I at here? I'm right on track and where I'm supposed to be. All right. So first question is, what life experiences brought you into your line of work? So Eunicia, let's go ahead and start with you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tina. So as far as life experiences, as you mentioned earlier, I've always been in the financial realm in some shape or form. For most of the individuals that know me, I've been at the intersection of finance as the organization within large Fortune 500 companies, as well as finance as the industry. What has brought me to where I'm at today and to how we're helping clients today maximize more of their wealth and keep more in their bottom line was really a journey that was based and it was founded in my own experiences when my husband and I were starting to ask the tough questions as to why is it that we had that feeling, that sinking feeling that money was being left to chance, and that perhaps we're not as optimized as we could have been, especially for someone that had been in the realms of multi six-figure income earners, and just being in a situation where money should have never been an issue. But as we know, the more that our income grows, the more that our spending habits grow as well. And so without realizing that and realizing that we have different options when it comes to how our money grows, of course, we leave money to chance. And so that's kind of how I got to starting to really dive in and asking the tough questions to identify what are the blind spots that we as individuals have, as consumers have, and most importantly, when we're thinking about our money, that perhaps we don't know that they even exist. This blind spots that are.
And thank you for that. And this is why I love asking this question, is because anybody that's successful in business, there's a why behind. There's a connection to something that has happened to you personally that's brought you into your line of work. And no difference for sure with Eileen. I know Eileen very well and what she does and her passion behind what she does, but I'm going to let her answer this question, of course. So Eileen, let's talk about your life experience and what brought you into your line of work of helping people put their memories together and preserve them.
Thanks, Tina. Well, my why is different than what life experience brought me into this line of work. So the life experience that brought me into this line of work was motherhood. And I adopted our son in 2000 and was taking a lot of pictures. And I went to a store to learn how to scrapbook these wonderful pictures, and I was so overwhelmed. And then I went to a creative memories party where I learned how to quickly and easily put photos into books. And I learned I could have my own business doing that as well. And so it was a home-based business, which was perfect for me as a stay-at-home mom. And then I could use my business brain. I could be creative and constructive and putting the pictures together. It was a social gathering, and I hosted events that people could do this, and then I could help other people do it too. Yeah. And once I did that, then I delved into the why. Why is it that I want to do this kind of work? And what I realized is it was all because I lost my mom at age 10. I lost my mom at age 10. We didn't have very many pictures, so I cherished pictures tremendously. And they became so important to me. And the fact about helping people tell their stories with pictures and preserve their pictures became very clear as why I was doing this work. So
yeah, I love that, Eileen. I get goosebumps every time, I'm in a space that I get to hear, and I know what it is, and I've heard it many times, and I still get to that place. So thank you so much for sharing that with my listeners, Eileen. Eunicia, who is your ideal client?
Our ideal client are any individual that, or any family or business owner that truly want to take their finances to the next level. That being said, however, what we found in years and years and hundreds of clients that we worked with is that while everybody could and should benefit from understanding the keys that, frankly, the financial services industry is not disclosing, and those same keys that the wealthy use, it's truly a subset of the population that actually is in a situation or are in a position where they're willing and able to take matters into their own hands to see those benefits of optimizing wealth. You were talking about wealth creation earlier, right? And it's so, so important. And so in terms of who our typical clients are, primarily we work with high net worth individuals as well as high income earners, individuals and families and or business owners that typically are going to be above $150,000 to $200,000, not because we're excluding anybody out of the equation, but because we found that it really takes a mindset shift and the ability to dive into that in order to really be willing to do the hard work and to make the tough decisions that are required to see the big success financially on the other end.
Yeah, makes sense. Eileen, how about you? Who is your ideal client?
Well, I have two types of ideal clients because I have two types of business. I have a done for you business where I make memory books for people who don't have time or interest to make them themselves. And then I have a DIY group, a do-it-yourself group of people who do have the time and interest to make their own books, but they need supplies and help and events. And I help them with all those things with my in-studio inventory and my online inventory and my Zoom and hybrid in-person crop events and workshops and classes.
Thank you, Eileen. Unicia, what is your one, if you listed what your top key to success, what would that be?
Tenacity. And I say tenacity because it's not something that I myself have come up with. It's something that I've heard. It's a word that I've heard from many of my clients and from many of my mentors throughout the years. And I think it's very, very important for anyone to really be able to continue to push through, right? When life gives us breadcrumbs or it gives us lemons, how do we make lemonade out of that? Because what I found is that on whether it's on a personal note or on a business note as well, it's those events, it's those things in our life that actually, if we get past them and we hold fast and we steadfast and we move strong, on the other side is the biggest successes that we would not be able to identify or experience if we didn't push forward. So that's kind of my little secret to success.
Yeah. So if you're listening to the show and you're looking at the glass half empty, just know that you can always fill up that glass, and you just need to have that fighting spirit for sure. Eileen, how about for you? What would you, one thing you'd credit to your success?
I would say a passion. It's a passion for what I do. I love taking big boxes of photos and sorting them and organizing them into a meaningful story that can be placed in a book, traditionally taped in or professionally digitally produced. So it's a passion, a love for what I do. It's a love for helping people and seeing the look on people's faces when they get these books that are a tribute to them and their memories. So.
Yeah, I'm in a group with Eileen, and so we've connected at a really high level. And when she shares stories of these books and the real people she put them together for, literally everybody is in tears. And when you hear somebody else is sharing what Eileen's book has done for them, they're in tears. I just love what you do, Eileen, and it makes such a difference in people's lives. Not just, I just talked with Vance, and he said, he was like, I had no idea the experience and what this experience was going to be like in providing what you needed, because he had you make his book. So he wasn't making it, but it was the preparation to get you the photos and that experience alone. So what you do, it allows people to have some space and some forced time to think about who is important to them and what memories are important to them. All right, so we have less than a minute in this show, so I think I'm gonna leave our last panel conversation, and we're just gonna get right into the interview, individual interviews, because I don't want to cut any time out of there for you. So coming up next in the Money Hour, Fractional Investments, Unicia Perret of the Empowered Financial Planner, right here on 1150 AM KKNW. You are listening to the Money Hour on 11:50 a.m. KKNW, the Saturday, April 16th show. You can also listen to my show podcast, Facebook premiere, or my show on the show YouTube channel. In addition, for more information on any of my upcoming events, you can go to tinamitchellevents.com. I am your host and local mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell. I'm here to help you build a strong financial blueprint 1 week and 1 show at a time. If you are hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast. I'm here to answer any questions or connect you with the guests that I have on the show today. Please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150, or you can go online to themoneyhour.com. And now back in virtual studio, Unicia Perret of the Empowered Financial Planner, Fractional Investments is what we're talking about right here on 11:50 a.m. at KKNW. So Unicia, let's go ahead and start out with why don't business owners know more about where their money is going or how they can use it to achieve what they want when it comes to keeping more of what they earn? Why are not more business owners in tune to that?
There are a few different things, Tina, that come to mind. I would say that one of the big reasons why they're not in tune is because oftentimes as business owners, individuals are busy. They have so much writing on their plates every day. There's so much going on with the business. And oftentimes the last thing that they want to do is to sit down to try to understand what potentially could they be missing out on when it comes to financial planning, when it comes to wealth optimization, when it comes to tax minimalization. And so because each and every one of those topics can be so overwhelming, oftentimes it's easier to just put it off. And so when we put things off, one of the big things that happens is that and money ends up being left on the table. So we won't call it procrastination, but don't put things off. Don't procrastinate. We will call it afterwards. Don't push things off to tomorrow, to next month, to the next year, because what happens when you do that, it's not a pretty story. One of the other reasons why individuals don't really understand what's happening with their finances is because historically, they perhaps did not have a solid financial team to work with. They might have a CPA, they might even work with a financial planner or both. They might have a tax person, possibly, or a bookkeeper or an attorney or all of the above. But what we are seeing with just about everybody that comes across and becomes a client is that in most cases, those individuals, even if they have the siloed relationships, those relationships never really come together to where they foster conversations that ultimately end up putting more money back into the client's pocket. And so a big part of what we do is a lot of my clients will tell you we are great at herding cats. We literally focus on making sure that our clients' financial teams talk together. They talk so that our clients ultimately have the benefit and can experience the benefit of how do we truly minimize taxes when it comes to figuring out where money is leaking out? How do we optimize the way that wealth is being built by not leaving money to chance? And then last but not least, how do we really focus on those streams of income and maximizing those streams of income? Because if we are able to put all of those pieces of that beautiful puzzle together, we end up seeing more results and more financial impact, bigger financial impact to our bottom line.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about that today because it's so surprising. You have all of these experts in these different spaces, which you need, and they're not communicating, which can be devastating to your financial outcome. Again, we're going to talk more about that. But so what's happening when a client's team is not actively working together towards their client's goal? So what kind of disaster could that be?
Well, if we were to think, let's think from a taxes perspective, just for a moment. Oftentimes, and I'll preface that by saying, oftentimes people will ask us, new clients or prospects will ask us, well, why are we talking about taxes? Well, because most people don't want to either talk about taxes or that's an area that's not really openly being discussed. What we're seeing is that especially, and I don't want to single out in high income earners, because this can happen at all levels of income. But generally what we're seeing is that individuals can leave as much as 30 to 50% more in taxes than perhaps they're paying more that much more in taxes than perhaps they should or they could. Why? There are a lot of different reasons, but one of the big ones is that people don't really understand that the tax code was not written for the W-2 employee, and it was not written to just file taxes. The tax code was written in such a way where due diligence and planning is critical, but that due diligence and that planning doesn't happen. I would say that 99.99% of individuals that we see, even if they have this idea of we're doing tax planning, that tax planning is more of a revision of what was done last year versus how can we truly optimize and use the tax code to our advantage. And when I say taxes, I want everybody to understand I am not a proponent of tax evasion, not at all. That's very different from minimizing our tax exposure. And so when it comes to taxes, that's one area. The other big part, the other big component from a financial team standpoint is how money gets invested. And now we're talking about your financial team in terms of financial advisor, in terms of your insurance individuals, in terms of every mortgage brokers, bankers. How do we bring all that together? You're a specialist in mortgages. I can't tell you how many times we work with clients that did not know that by simply knowing the tips and the tricks of refinancing a mortgage, that they could free up cash, that they could focus more on their wealth creation efforts, that they could really truly add to their bottom line. And so that's one sliver of what we're looking at in terms of how does that financial team come together. And then last but not least, when it comes to the financial team, oftentimes the financial services industry is not focused on how do we maximize income in our future years, in our retirement years. Everybody's just focused on the today and now because that's where money's being made. Well, that's wonderful. But when you're looking at someone that's 50, 60 years old, 70 years old, and that planning was never really done with the lens and through the lens of focusing on those beautiful retirement years, or for most people, the years when we want to no longer work for money, we want the money to service us, not having the right individuals and the right people on that bus, right, on their financial bus, talking to each other. Again, you can see even here so many different points of disconnect that oftentimes happen, and they happen unfortunately every single day, and clients and people don't really realize. And what's worse is they don't know how to corral all of that knowledge so that it benefits them.
Yeah, you need to plan for today, you need to plan for tomorrow, and you need to plan for your future. And if somebody were to ask you right now, will you continue working where you're working and know you're never going to get an increase in pay, you would absolutely say no. Well, people are setting themselves up that when they get into retirement, they're not going to ever receive an increase in pay. So you have to understand, just as Nisha is saying here, is how do we make sure that your income, you're going to have the income is going to be increasing based on to keep up with inflation and everything that's happening. So absolutely. And you'd mentioned the mortgage, which is important because this is just one example in what your mortgage options are. Not having to come in with a large down payment, instead of leaving it in your investments that are going to compound and have a stronger growth over time than having it stuck in your real estate. So again, that's an example of what Unisha is saying, is you need both experts, the mortgage and the financial advisor, or the CPA and the financial planner. So Unisha, why are financial teams not strategically at the highest level coming together and working as a team?
That's a great question. I would say that one of the main reasons is the way that the industries, it's really multiple industries can bubble together, right? That need to be conjoined together, that aren't really communicating with each other. There's no incentive for a mortgage broker or a banker to be talking to a financial advisor that's sitting outside of that specific bank's walls, right? Or likewise, to be talking to a CPA or perhaps a bookkeeper or whoever prepares the taxes, because there are no incentives there. Yes, there are specific tangential alignments, right, that should happen between your tax preparer and possibly your mortgage broker, but do those really happen? And do those strategic planning discussions actually take place? Let's look at an example, a business owner, right? As business owners, because of deductions and everything else that happens, how many times, Tina, did you see taxes coming across done haphazardly in such a way where the client is looking at, maybe I'm going to be able to buy next year, or maybe we need to have a 2-year plan? Well, what if those discussions were happening earlier on? What would the results be? And the results are, you're going to see a huge reduction in your taxes. You're going to see a huge optimization in terms of your cost, and a huge opportunity to really take the money that you are working for and take the results of it growing to the next level.
Yes. Yeah. So Anisha, what is the top 3 things that business owners should do to overcome lost time?
Well, first and foremost, they really need to focus on taking that step and asking a lot of questions. And oftentimes people will say, well, where do I start with the questions? And my guidance is, start whatever questions that come to mind, ask them. Number one, if you don't have someone to ask them of, jot them down, make sure that they're documented, so that when you do have the right individuals, or you know that, okay, I'm talking to an individual that I can ask good questions of, feel free to, you're going to have them, and then you can be more prepared. The second part is, start thinking about who is sitting on your team. Are those people, do you see the individuals that you're working with bringing you fresh ideas every single year to say, hey, we could be doing a little bit better here, we could be doing a little bit better there, we could minimize your risk here, or up your growth over there? What are the fresh ideas that you're getting? If you're not getting those fresh ideas, start asking yourself the question of, who should be changed out, and how do we need to get that team working together? And then the other thing that I would say is, don't shy away from paying money in order to go fast. Dean Graziosi, one of our mentors, has always said, it takes money to go fast. You have to pay to go fast. And oftentimes, one of the things that I see, especially with business owners, is we're looking at a small quadrant, we're looking at that little bit or a lot of the money that's coming in, and we're always so focused on just the cash flow that oftentimes we're paralyzing the business, and we're paralyzing our financial growth, because we don't want to invest in ourselves, we don't want to invest in our businesses, and more importantly, we don't want to invest in those strategic partners that can actually make all the difference when it comes to our money.
Yeah, great advice. So what are the implications associated with business owners trusting someone else to singly handle and manage their wealth, oftentimes without any input from them as a business owner?
Oftentimes it can be as much as hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And we have cases over cases because of the pool of and the type of clients that we work with, where we might see in one specific transaction a potential loss of accumulation in tune of $700, $800, $900,000 over a period of X number of years. And that's in one instance, that's one case, that's one example for one client. That's without taxes added on top of it. That's without optimizing our future income. And so when you start looking at everything all out, it could be very, very impactful. It could make the difference between being super, super comfortable in retirement and scraping the bottom and trying to keep up with inflation.
Yeah, big difference. So what are some immediate steps business owners can take to have a sense of power over how they grow their wealth?
One of the big things that we see as individuals are unsure of what exactly is happening with their money to begin with. And that was actually one of your first questions. So one of the easiest ways to start the exercise of starting to get a handle of what is happening in their financial house is start documenting, where is your money and how is it servicing you? And that's where I would invite our listeners, if they want to connect with us, we would be more than happy to help them think through what are some of those specifics to their situation where they can go more in depth. But start documenting your accounts and start asking for each one of those accounts and for each one of the areas where money is sitting in for you. how is that money supposed to be serving you? How is it serving you? And how do you want it to serve you down the road? And then once you have that, you'll have the sense of, okay, I'm probably not doing as bad as I thought I was.
Yeah. Eunice, thank you so much for coming in. It was really great to have a conversation with you and to share the obvious wealth that you have with my listeners, and look forward to having you come back in studio, hopefully in the future.
It was my pleasure, Tina. I look forward to that as well.
Thank you. Coming up next to the Money Hour, the power of memory books, Eileen Vierra of Memory Books by Eileen, right here on 1150 AM KKNW. You are listening to the Money Hour at 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, April 16th show and Easter weekend. Easter is the rare beauty of life, so I hope you enjoy it this weekend. You can also listen to my show podcast, Facebook premiere, or you can catch my show on my show YouTube channel. In addition, for more information on my upcoming events, you can go to TinaMitchellEvents.com. I am your host and local mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell. I bring into studio each week the best of the best experts in our local market on everything regarding your money. Now in studio, Eileen Vierra of Memory Books by Eileen, the power of memory books, right here on 1150 AM KKNW. Eileen, thank you again so much for coming back in studio. It's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you.
Thank you for having me again, Tina.
So Eileen, can you share why memory books are so powerful?
Yes, sure. Memory books generate nostalgia, and those are the thoughts and feelings that come with remembering certain situations, and that helps with our mental health and our feelings of belonging. So when we review our memories and think of our memories, we are reminded of the meaningful memories and relationships that we have with people, and that's really powerful. And then when people give us memory books of ourselves, or tribute books to ourselves, to our people we love, that is a super powerful way of showing that we honor and care about someone, and that's where the tears come a lot of times.
Yeah. As I was talking with Eileen earlier about that. And yeah, just if you're listening to the show right now, just think about that last time that something reminded you of a special memory, and you get those goosebumps, and it brings on the tears of joy. Only if you embrace that moment. A lot of people, as they let that moment pass, and then they get right back to whatever they were thinking about in business. Well, this experience of putting together a memory book, it allows you that time to continue that process and experience that for a long period of time, which definitely has huge beneficial for you. So Eileen, what do you mean by memory books?
So I created this idea of memory books because I do photo books for people. You know, a lot of people are familiar with photo books. They're the coffee table bound books like this, you know, that people can use to store their memories and store their important travels and that kind of thing. And then I guess we can't see it in here, but scrapbooks are a different type of memory book where you can add pages, you can tape in pictures. This can also be digitally done. So it's a little bit bulkier, but it can hold mementos and cards and maps and all kinds of other things that you want to remember and keep. So there's scrapbooks, there's photo books, and then there's digitally designed scrapbooks. So there's three kinds of memory books.
3 different options, and digital on top of that. So Eileen, can you clarify that you're making them or your clients are making them? How do they make that decision?
Sure. Well, I have both types of clients. So I have done for you services for people that I will take their traditional photos or digital photos and make books for them. And those are for people who don't have the interest or the time to make them themselves. So I do that. That's Memory Books by Eileen. That's how I founded that part of the business. And then before that, I was working with people through another company called Creative Memories, where people wanted to design their own. They wanted to DIY it, right? Do it themselves. And then with those people, I provide supplies in my studio or online, and I provide space and events and workshops online and in person to give people designated creative time. So I do both.
Yes, yes. I think they get to choose what works best for them. So what memory book themes are you seeing that most people are requesting?
What I'm seeing the last couple of years, especially, is a lot of milestone birthday books or milestone anniversary books. I thought I'd see more travel and wedding books, but I'm not seeing that. I'm also seeing a lot of parents come to me with 18 or 21 years of photos from their children.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do I do with this? And my son, my son or daughter's graduating from high school or college, and I want to give them all of their memories. And so I call that a taught to teen book. And I have been doing a lot of those, and they make great graduation gifts, and they make really special Christmas gifts too.
I remember quite a few years ago, but my sister-in-law, she has two daughters, and I think they're like 2 years apart from each other, but both of them have got a memory book from when they were a baby up to, and both of those girls and everybody that was there at those both two separate occasions, a couple years in between, were just like so emotional. It's a big deal to be able to have that the first time experience and then be able to go back to it over and over again. So Eileen, how can you help people who want to make their own memory books? So, and you're doing the supplies and you're providing the space and the events around that, correct?
Yes. So on my website, Memory Books by Eileen, I have a shop section, and those are online stores. One is traditional and one's digital. So traditional is through my Creative Memories link, and digital is through my Forever link. And Forever is a place that's like Dropbox and Shutterfly meshed together. And so those are so I have supplies in all of those areas that I can help people with through links there. And then I can also teach people how to use a software called Artisan. It's like Photoshop, but a lot easier. And then and people can make their own custom photo books using that software.
Okay, so can you share a little bit more about your events that you host? Because I know that those are popular and really bring, again, creating that space for people. So can you share a little bit more about those?
Sure. I do hybrid crafting events now. Since the pandemic hit, I learned all about Zoom and fell in love with Zoom. And I also have a studio here in person. So I call those hybrid crafting workshops. And I do them weekly. I do them every Tuesday, every Friday, one Saturday a month. And then I take people on retreat.
So share about the retreats.
Sure. I do biannual retreats up in Monroe. So I'm in South Bellevue. So that's like a half an hour, 45 minutes away north of here. And I know a lady who has these craft houses. They're set up for crafting. There's beds, kitchens, and tables for crafting.
Why haven't I heard about this?
Oh my gosh, you.
Oh my God, I'm in.
You would love it. You would love it. So, and my people love it too. And it was a little tricky during the pandemic, but I had to cancel one in the spring of 2020, obviously, because the whole world got canceled. But then in the fall of 2020, I just had half the number of people. So we spread out, we masked, and we were able to get crafting done. And the ladies were so thrilled, because they'd been locked up with their families for 9 months, and they were like, let me out of here and let me be creative and be around other people. And
as long as they still love them and they want to put the memories together, right?
Yes, definitely. But so it includes 2 night stay, 6 meals made for you, and just fun people. And creative time, just designated time to be creative and have fun. And I teach how to do some page layouts. And
so when is your next one, Eileen? When's the next retreat?
My next one is September 23rd through the 25th, and it's full already. It's
Wow.
full already, Tina, but so I'm already booking for spring of next year. I got a bigger place. I even got an option for an additional day, and I'm starting to book that one. So it's March 10th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th.
Okay.
So Thursday, it could be Friday through Sunday or Thursday through Sunday.
Since I'm the host of the Money Hour and I'm your friend, I need to make sure I get into that one.
Yes, you do.
Yeah,
Yes.
that is awesome, Eileen. I mean, you know, you just seeing your passion for what you're doing and the difference that you're making in people's lives and really storing their memories. And again, bringing in that connection to the process of putting them together themselves or gathering that is just really a special thing. And I feel blessed to be a part of you and to watch the growth of your business as well. So Eileen, do you, so in the event you're doing your personal classes, and again, you're going to keep options for that virtually and options for in person, right? So you're going to keep that virtual aspect part of it.
Yes, I definitely am, because I've picked up some clients in California, Nebraska, and New Jersey, and Tennessee, and Michigan. So, and they don't want me to stop. So, and I love Zoom. I do enough Zoom that it's fun for me, but not so much that I'm Zoom weary. So,
Zoom weary. Love it.
Yes, Zoom weary, not Zoom weary. It works for me. And so much so that I started some new classes this year and you were my inspiration for that too.
Oh, thank you.
Doing your classes, your 8-week burn and your success team classes. You helped me develop my business and be more efficient and effective at what I'm doing. Anyway, so I decided to host some quarterly classes, just some basic photo organizing and some basic scrapbooking 101 for people who are interested in just the very beginnings of photo organizing, right, for themselves. And then I started hosting some monthly classes. And these are for my DIY people, my people who want to do it themselves. And I taught 3 classes on speedy scrapbooking using that designer where you just drag and drop. And then that was my first quarter. My second quarter, I'm going to teach speedy photo books. So people, like, maybe they don't want to hire me to do a photo book, but I can show them a couple tips and tricks to do their own. And then quarter 3, I'm going to talk about using that special scrapbooking software called Artisan, which is like Photoshop, but it's easier. So I'm going to do 3 classes on that. And then in quarter 4, I'm going to teach people how to make cards and make photo gifts online. So,
I love it, Eileen. And I was going to ask you, we got a couple minutes left here. I've got one more question to ask you, but I was going to ask you about, just to share about your business growth. And I mean, it's been amazing. And it's because you're getting all of these consistencies in these events and the different places. You're building this community of scrapbookers in all areas that they might want to do that. And it's a beautiful thing. All right. Before we wrap up the show, I want to ask you one other question. How has memory book making helped you personally?
Well, I find it very therapeutic. So it's creative, and then it's nostalgic, and then it's just very therapeutic. When I look at these memories, especially when I'm doing books of people who passed, you can't really see this one, but it's of my dad. And because I look at the pictures, they make me laugh. I look at the pictures, they make me cry and laugh and cry and laugh and cry. And then I create this beautiful book at the end, and it's a place to go visit my person who I've lost. So incredibly therapeutic. So it's helped me that way. And then obviously it's helped me with making more money for my family. So
yes, exactly. And it's helped you to be a big, that you have such an impact in people's lives. Every individual that you bring into your community and it works for them and they engage in it, you're making a big difference. So thank you, Eileen.
I love that I get to do that.
Yeah. Well, that is the end of the show. I have to wrap up for the day and say goodbye to both of my guests. But if you would like to connect with either of my guests on the show that were here today, please call the show at 1-855-400-1150, or you can go online to themoneyhour.com. Tina Mitchell, your host and local mortgage expert, happy to say goodbye to my listeners. And I want to say thank you to both of you for coming into the show.
Thank you for having me.
Likewise, Tina, it was a pleasure being here with you and your listeners as well.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. More importantly, make it a special Easter Sunday. And I look forward to talking more money with you next weekend, right here on 1150 AM KKNW.